Good afternoon and welcome to CCN Midday News, The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, July 20th. House Education Democrats say the CDC director is blocked from appearing before Congress. The pandemic surges damages Trump, boosting Biden's White House bid, polls now say. Conservative fears Lindsey Graham's plan to help Trump re-election will blow up in his face. And Louisiana sheriff waited 3 months to disclose the deputy that shot a black teenager. And Roger Stone calls a black radio show host, Mo Kelly, a racial slur during an interview. And 2 GOP senators post photos of Elijah Cummings instead of John Lewis on social media. And the Secret Service is under fire for charging taxpayers $25,000 in jet skis so the Trump family can swim. And maskless woman harasses Hispanic landscaper for doing his job and demands to see his papers. Let's get to the news. The White House is blocking the CDC officials from testifying next week at a hearing on reopening schools, the House Education and Labor Committee told Politico on Friday. Separately, the CDC has confirmed more guidance for opening schools won't be released until later this month. The committee chair had invited the CDC director to testify before the Early Childhood, Elementary, and Secondary Education subcommittees on July 23rd at a hearing on safely reopening schools. The chair was to discuss the immediate need of K through 12 public schools as many districts look to reopen in the fall. Aide speaking on the background said that the committee was told that the chair would not appear at the direction of the White House. The White House and the CDC did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The CDC spokesperson speaking on the background said that the committee chair has participated in more than 10 congressional hearings on the virus, including 3 last month. The announcement comes as the CDC has delayed its release of the new guidance on safety to reopen schools. The move also is a revisal on the accessibility of the CDC officials testifying in Congress. The National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health had testified before the committee back in May. And now it's our favorite time and portion of the show where I tell my personal commentaries on the stories of the afternoon. So this story, of course, is about the White House blocking the CDC officials from testifying in an open hearing about reopening schools and the what steps are being taken so that schools can reopen and safely. The House Education and Labor Committee chairperson, who is Bobby Scott, had invited the director, who is Robert Redfield, to testify, but the White House has told the chairman of the CDC that they are not allowed to testify. This, of course, is playing into politics. Of course, we're not even concerned about the children and their safety. He just doesn't want the CDC to say anything that will damage him and his poll numbers. He has put the muzzle on the CDC. He doesn't even want them to report anymore. Any reporting that you hear about the CDC will come directly from the White House. They're using every weapon in their arsenal to silence true information. Again, only because it would make them look bad in the polls. But at what point do you forget about the polls and worry about the people that put you in office? I mean, it's not even about Trump supporters anymore. You're the president of the United States, not the president of Trump supporters. So therefore, you have to be concerned about everyone. And if you're so pushing to have kids back in school, why would you not have the CDC at the hearing to discuss what steps need to be taken so that schools can open safely and lessen the effect of kids actually contracting the virus or having the virus and infecting teachers, or vice versa, and then affecting family members outside of their school. So this is, of course, again, Trump trying to swing his weight around, and he's got a lot of it. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully they do testify or get to give some sort of statement or something, but we'll see how this goes. Still keeping our ears and eyes wide open. Public preference for Joe Biden over Donald Trump in trust to handle the coronavirus pandemic has soared since March in the latest ABC Washington Post poll, along with other measures in the race for the White House. However, over 3.5 months ago, the two candidates were virtually in an even tie in trust to handle the pandemic. Trump was actually up 2 percentage points, but today, the COVID-19 cases surging around the nation, Biden leads Trump on the issue by 20 points. Biden also has the advantage in trust to handle the economy. After railing in March, Biden leads Trump by 9 points on handling crime and safety, a focal point of Trump's in recent weeks, and on race relations. Biden also leads by his largest margin of 25 points. Trump's overall job approval rating is at 39% in this particular poll produced by ABC, which is down 9 points in the course of the pandemic. With disapprovals up 11 points, Trump remains the first president in modern polling ever to achieve a majority of disapproval for his work in office, with the lowest career average on record. All right, and in this story, of course, we're talking about the surge in Biden's numbers due to the pandemic. Now, let's just be real about the atmosphere in which we are in right now. Of course, anybody running up against an incumbent president who's not handling themselves as a president and maintaining order as far as it relates to this pandemic would be surging in the polls. And that would go any president, governor who wasn't controlling the state, and the state had a pandemic like this, like they're facing, like a Brian Kemp, or any other governor who refuses to believe the science and take the proper steps to ensure the safety of their citizens is a problem and would be up for deep and harsh scrutiny. And a lot of voters would second guess their ability to lead, and not just lead a few, but lead the state, the country, so on and so forth. He's always displayed this lack of leadership. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me now that he has no regard for what's going on, but it is interesting to see if other people who were Trump loyalists start to now question his ability to lead and move forward. And funny that even Mitch McConnell has now kind of given up on securing Trump's seat and making sure that if Biden does win, that he will make it a pretty hard 4 years for Joe Biden, as he did for Barack Obama's presidency, especially towards the last 4 years of it. So this will be interesting to see. I do hope that Mitch McConnell does get pushed out of his seat, but I'm sure the Russians are putting not just money in Donald Trump's pocket, but anybody who is running for re-election. I'm sure that they have some doings with a lot of these politicians. So, and maybe there'll be more shoes to drop in that regard. So we'll see and keep our eyes and ears open for this as well. But the numbers, as Lil Wayne would say, the numbers don't lie. And it is what it is. You can just see in the people that are dying. We're at 1% and change of the population infected with this deadly virus. And we're at, 140 and change counting, and that's deaths. And more to come if people still don't continue to take this seriously. And we should not have to wait for the president himself to take it seriously for everybody else to take it seriously. So I employ people to just take it seriously. Second guess your interactions with people. And if you do feel like you need to interact for whatever reason, just wear a mask and be safe and protect yourself. It's like, driving. When you say when you're driving, you have to look out for yourself and the driver and the person, in front of you or behind you. It's the same thing. It's not about taking away your civil liberties by having you wear a mask, but it's about protecting yourself. So that's what I think we should be focusing on. And that's all I have to say about that. According to a report at the Daily Beast, some Republicans, as well as advisors to Donald Trump, are questioning Senator Lindsey Graham's decision to relitigate the investigation by Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller into the Trump administration's connection to Russia, so close to the election, saying that it could come back to haunt both the president and Graham himself. Last week, Graham, who heads the Senate Judiciary Committee, stated that he is willing to call Mueller back to testify again about his investigation, and that has some conservatives very nervous. While the White House has been silent about Graham's plan, some Trump allies, including one of the president's former attorneys, are wondering if it is not all a big mistake. Okay, so I've talked about this story before, but once again, it's come before us. And this is Lindsey Graham actually asking for Robert Mueller to come before the Senate Judiciary Committee to testify in the 2016 Russia investigation. Lindsey Graham, aka Lady Graham, or Lady G as I like to call her, is really trying to carry or be a ring bearer pretty much for Trump so bad that he thinks that if he gets Robert Mueller in front of this committee on TV, that he will be able to embarrass Robert Mueller to the extent that people will think that the Russia investigation in the 2016 was a complete farce and something used by the Democratic Party to tarnish Trump. I personally think it'll be nothing but the total opposite. My hope is that, being that Robert Mueller is not a part of the the Justice Department any longer because he has no ties, that he's not the special prosecutor that was asked to be on the case, that he can just say exactly what he feels, exactly what it is, facts per facts. All the documents have been redacted, so basically he could just spill it out and let it all out, pour all the tea on the floor, and then drop the mic and walk away. If he can fully emphatically say that this president used, like, the Russians invited their help and this president was all for it, all on board, everybody in his family, the cabinet, the people outside, everybody knew about it, they were all on board, they did whatever they needed to do to ensure the Russians would continue to help, that'd be a great day. And that's all he needs to say. He don't need to do nothing else. say nothing else. And those people who took a chance on Trump, even in his racist and bigoted remarks and comments and things of that nature, who just, you know, took a side eye to that and still voted for him, maybe they will begin to turn around and say, you know what, he's not really what we need for America. Because if you're going to put America first, then therefore America should be first. And you shouldn't be asking foreign governments for assistance to get you elected. So we'll see how this goes. But I just really think that Lindsey Graham will wind up getting shot in the foot. Because even if, say, hypothetically, Robert Mueller does not really give up the goods on what he feels about Trump and his, exact doings in the investigation, it would still tarnish Lindsey Graham himself, because South Carolina is somewhat of a stronghold for Trump in the 2016 election. And if he is looked at as aiding Democrats by having Robert Mueller testify and causing friction in Trump's orbit, then that'll be interesting. And he wind up losing, which he already is. I mean, Jamie Harrison, who is running for his seat in South Carolina, is becoming somewhat of a formidable challenger to Lady Graham. So Lady Graham need to watch out, because there's someone flying right past your skirt tails, and you need to, you too busy trying to carry the water for Trump, and you might wind up missing out and not having a job. Or he could just be doing this all to ensure that he has a cabinet job after he gets fired from his Senate job. That could be a point too. So anyway, we'll keep our eyes and ears open for this. So any new developments, I'll be sure to let you guys know. A sheriff's office in Louisiana waited 3 months before disclosing that a deputy had shot a 14-year-old boy, NBC reported. And a yet unnamed Jefferson Parish deputy shot Trey Mall McGee in the shoulder, landing him in the emergency room on March 17th in a New Orleans suburb, and the head of the department did not disclose the officer's involvement in the shooting until June. The initial police report on the incident said deputies were investigating a car stolen days earlier, but details about the shooting were left out. Trey Mall has said that he didn't know why he was shot. He admitted that he initially ran after police officers pulled over a vehicle he was riding in with friends, but said that he was shot while raising his arms above his head to comply with officers' commands. And here's another story, unfortunately, of police cover-up and police wrongdoing. And this is the reason why people are calling for a defunding of the police departments around the country. Not to get rid of police altogether, but to defund a lot of the funds that go into the police departments, because they obviously are not doing the proper things with all of the extra money that they get. So this story out of Louisiana, the sheriff in the Louisiana parish chose not to, a 14-year-old boy pretty much was shot. Shot in the arm or the shoulder. It wasn't deadly. However, he was in the car with friends. The car was pulled over, and the young man got nervous and ran. And because he ran, he stopped and had his hands up. I guess after running and figured he was, caught or cornered, he had his hands up on the ground with his knees on the ground, and he was still shot in the shoulder. And he asked the officer, why did you shoot me? This, that, and the other. However, the sheriffs of that Louisiana parish did not release the information of the officer who shot the 14-year-old boy. However, they did release everything else in the incident about the car being pulled over and there being young people in the car, but nothing about the shooting at all was released. This happened back in March, and this is, unfortunate. And again, the reason why we're asking for a re-examination or even a hauling of a lot of the police department practices is due to this. There's a lot of cover-up. There's a lot of things that go on where people have lost their lives and nothing is being said about it. And then all of a sudden, this story pops up like, oh yeah, this actually happened. It furthermore ensues that level of distrust that a lot of people of color and communities have with trusting the police. Here they are supposed to protect and serve, but they don't. They more like enforce and enforce and dictate, and that's not what you want. In a police department, you want to be able to trust. You want to be able to go there, and it's a place where you feel like you're in danger. You could go and do that. And it's almost like they're not there to police. They're they're not there to protect and serve. They're just there to police you and make sure you're in line, which I think is real unfortunate. So any new breakthroughs I hear about this story, I will definitely get back to you, because this is going to be quite interesting. Not only do I see a lawsuit definitely brewing in the near future from the family towards that parish, as well as the state and the city, I just feel like it's just crazy. Like, how do you keep something under wraps for that long to protect the officer, no less, for shooting a child? Again, this is what you train for. You train to run and do all that kind of stuff. And immediately when someone stops, you apprehend them. Your thing is shoot them anyway. What kind of mess? Like, what kind of world do we live in? Again, where in which somebody, the value of a person is left to the person carrying the authority to value them or devalue them. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. But anyway, like I said, I will keep my eyes and ears open on this story. Any new developments, we'll definitely get them to you. Then Donald Trump's reprise advisor Roger Stone called a black radio host a Negro during a heated live interview on Saturday, prompting the furious host to later tweet, "I am nobody's Negro." At the time, Stone was getting grilled over his merits of his convictions for lying to Congress by Maurice O'Kelly, known as Mo Kelly, the host of a broadcast on Southern California's KFI AM 640. Mo Kelly argued that Stone's close friendship with Trump was the reason he was granted clemency, and not because he was treated unfairly by the justice system, as Stone has insisted.
That he did on October 26, 2017. So in other words, Rosenstein, guess what? Lied to Congress about a material matter. When's he being charged?
I don't know. I would love to see it.
Standards here. That's my argument.
No. I do believe that certain people are treated differently in the federal justice system. I do absolutely believe that. But I also believe that your friendship and relationship and history with Donald Trump weighed more heavily than him just wanting to make sure that justice was done by a person in the justice system, that you were treated so unfairly. There are thousands of people treated unfairly daily. How your number just happened to come up in the lottery, I'm guessing it was more than just luck, Roger, right?
I don't really feel like arguing with this Negro.
I'm sorry, what was that? Roger? Roger? I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, you're arguing with whom? I thought we were having just a very spirited conversation. What happened?
So we've all have heard that same old adage, you are the company you keep. This in reference to the criminal known as Roger Stone. And Roger Stone has just, his sentence has been commuted by President Donald Trump, meaning what that is he was granted clemency because he didn't snitch or rat on Donald Trump about his workings or dealings with WikiLeaks in the Russia investigation. Roger Stone went as far as to lie to Congress, which is illegal. And the fact that he lied to Congress and is still able to walk free because the president pardons him says a lot about the state of our democracy at this point. And that if it was to further in decline, we'd be looking at something totally different that many of us don't even recognize as far as how our government would be functioning. But anyway, Roger Stone was going, on a press tour, I'm sure, and he did a radio interview with a Southern California radio disc jockey by the name of Mo Kelly. His real name is Maurice O'Kelly, of course, otherwise known as Mo Kelly. He's Southern California disc jockey. So they got into a little bit of a debate about, basically the disc jockey said in so many words that, hey, the reason why you was granted clemency is because of your friendship and dealings with Donald Trump. And there's no qualms about it. He then goes on to say, so I hate talking to this Negro. I hate talking to Negroes like him. And the truth of the matter is, that was a nice way to say the N-word, but he really wanted to say the N-word. And at this point, you should have just said it. I mean, I'm sure you say it. I'm sure the president says it, and it's no thing. But, to actually say that to the man. And then, of course, in great Trump fashion, not only did this fool act like something was wrong with the connection of the phone, but first after he said it, and the gentleman's like, excuse me, what was that? What was that? Kind of like, I thought we were having a decent conversation. All that's BS. I mean, he should have just basically been like, what the did you say? And checked him right then and there. But I get it. You're trying to be professional. He's probably a Republican, or seems to probably vote more Republican, being that he is in Southern California. I wouldn't be surprised as far as the disc jockey was concerned. So maybe that's why he didn't really go in when Roger Stone said that. All he did was go to Twitter and go, I'm nobody's Negro. And in actuality, maybe you just come to the realization at that moment that maybe you might be the token Negro for them. So anyway, it was very distasteful and disgusting. But like I said, in true friend of Trump or Trump playbook fashion, he sat there quiet for like minutes and didn't say anything. And then talking about, oh, yeah, there must be something wrong with my connection. And he said, no, did you say? He's like, no, repeat what you just said. He's I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing. Which, oh, no, that's ridiculous. I would never. I didn't say that. I mean, like, it's recorded. I mean, we have to get to a place, really, that I really hope all media facets stop doing that. Stop, the man says, oh, no, I didn't say that. It's like, play it back to his face. Play it. I don't care if you got to pull out a tape recorder and just press play and let him hear it. Because we get into a place where it's on, video or recorded, and they can just sit there and say, oh, no, I didn't say that. And you move right along like it never happened. And these things need to be pointed out. You need to constantly put these things in these people's faces. Roger Stone is the total douchebag jerk. And he should have been in jail. He should have been serving some time for lying to Congress, of all things. Again, that's diminishing the power that the Congress has as an essential part of our government, and that's crazy. So with that said, that's all I can. I've already given him 4 minutes too much of this, but yeah, he's a total douchebag, and so is all of his friends and cronies. So they need to go jump off a bridge somewhere. All right. For the second time on Saturday, a Republican senator is apologizing for mistaking the late Elijah Cummings for Representative John Lewis in a social media post. The Alaskan Senator Dan Sullivan's office said that they made the mistake after Facebook posts honoring Lewis, the late Georgia congressman, included a picture of Sullivan with Cummings, the Maryland congressman who died in October of 2019 in front of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Sullivan's guest following Senator Marco Rubio, who earlier in the day acknowledged tweeting an image that also mistook Cummings for Lewis. Rubio, a Republican from Florida, eventually deleted the post, replacing it with an image of Lewis and a tribute message. Lewis died Friday night at the age of 80 after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in December of 2019. The late congressman became involved in civil rights movement at 15 years old and served 17 terms in Congress since first being elected back in 1986. Tributes to Lewis followed. Reports of his death immediately started pouring from politicians, world leaders, and former presidents. This past weekend, unfortunately, we lost a formidable giant in the fight for civil rights. Congressman John Lewis passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 80. He served in Congress for nearly 3 decades, as well as being a giant in the civil rights movement. Starting in civil rights at the age of 15, John Lewis was also part of the Bloody Sunday, which was the march across the Selma Bridge, which was, he almost lost his life. There was a police presence, and the police used aggressive force and injured a lot of people just peacefully protesting and crossing the bridge for voting rights. And, this is something and a part of history that, others would try to erase or diminish, but it is a vital part of our history. And the reason why voting, especially for people of color, is so important. We should never forget the sacrifices that people like John Lewis and so many others did for the right to vote in a nation where at that time they weren't even considered, less than. We still have incidents to this day, 2020 in modern day, where we are considered less than. So it is important that the fight for civil rights never dies, and we don't let it, and we should not, I'll say that, we should not let it die, even when our giants are no longer with us. So John Lewis passes away, and the colleagues give their condolences, and Marco Rubio and the senator out of Alaska, Dan Sullivan, give their condolences, but post pictures of them shaking hands with Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings, representative out of Maryland, passed last year in October. A great man in his own right, but John Lewis, something different. This man, marched alongside Martin Luther King when he was in college. And the civil rights movement was pretty much in its heightency. John Lewis pushed for voting rights. He wasn't too fond of the peaceful protest part of it, being a young person and you seeing all these things happen, you want action, you want, and he had a discussion with Martin Luther King, and he kind of seen where, he wanted to react after what happened to him on the Selma Bridge, but he knew that there was a bigger picture, and he got to see things in a different light. So, situations always make us think differently. And when we reevaluate the situation, there's a situation in which he could have lost his life on that bridge that day. That's how aggressive the police were to many of the protesters. So they post pictures, these two knuckleheads post pictures of him and Elijah, of them with Elijah Cummings, as if they are the same person. And to say someone is your colleague and oh, I remember when, or this person was such a great person, that you would know exactly who that person is. You would know that person's name. You would know exactly what they look like. So when you posted a picture of them in remembrance, then you would get the exact picture. The fact that both of them have this, somewhat of the same similar picture, but with the wrong person, it's just disrespectful. And it shows the lack of camaraderie amongst certain people in the Congress, Senate, as well as the House. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, you're there to serve the people. You're not there to just serve Republicans. You're not there to just serve Democrats. You're not there to even just serve independents. You're there to serve the American people. Once you are elected by the people, not just by your party. So I think that's something that people should, especially people in Congress, should be mindful of. And the partisanship should stop once the election is over. I understand, the partisanship during the election or election cycles, but after that's over, then you should get to governing for the people, which is everyone, not just some. And rest in power to John Lewis. While President Donald Trump spent weekends at Mar-a-Lago, the U.S. Secret Service was patrolling the waters around the private club so his family could swim. The Daily Beast reported that it was yet another example of the first family costing taxpayers a hefty sum to entertain a greater than normal travel scheduled for the president, his children, and grandchildren. The request for the jet skis came in 2019 when the U.S. Secret Service urged that they needed them for water training to protect the president's family throughout the year. The president and his family spends several weeks throughout the year at Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and the Hamptons in New York. The first family is very active in water sports, the report read. The estimated cost at the time was anticipated to be anywhere ranging from $9,999 to $15,299. However, the final cost came up to be around $25,000. Purchasing the jet skis may have been more than an affordable option. However, it was revealed back in May that the Secret Service had charged the taxpayers $179,000 to sign off on a golf cart contracts to Trump's Bedminster Club so the president could play golf. Given so many presidents play golf, there was a question about why the U.S. Secret Service handed money over to Trump to rent the golf carts instead of purchasing them for future use. Okay, so here we have a story of the Trump administration once again, or the Trump brand once again, using the office of the presidency to enrich itself. So President Donald Trump has enlisted the Secret Service to purchase all of these things, like, for example, the Trump children and grandchildren like to go swimming, and so there's a lake or a waterfront property, as Mar-a-Lago is. The Secret Service have to secure the entire perimeter, so therefore they had to buy jet skis ranging anywhere from roughly $10,000 to $15,000. However, also the Secret Service have bought golf carts, rented them, not bought them, but rented them. Let me correct that. They've rented them, costing taxpayers, $179,000. Now, I don't understand why they just wouldn't buy them. Just buy them flat out to use them for future reference, for future presidents and so on and so forth, but to rent them. So basically showing that the Trump brand has been charging the American people for everything. That's why Trump has been going to all of his properties. The reason why he's been going to all of his properties every weekend is because they've been charging the Secret Service as well as the American people, because that's who actually flips the bill, for the Secret Service staying at the Trump locations, their travel, their lodging, food, all of that. So here, when you think that the president is going to his properties because he's comfortable there and he can relax, he's actually going to his properties so he can charge the American people for being there. And I'm sure he's probably even charging the American people for being at his own properties, because being that he's the president of the United States, it probably still gets billed to the American people. And we are flipping the bill for someone who is, didn't he say he was a billionaire or he's pretty rich or very rich? So why can't he flip his own bills for at least some of the things that he would do, as in, why is the Secret Service having to pay for jet skis? If it's your property, why would you not just let them use the jet skis in order to secure your family? Why would they have to pay to rent those, or even purchase those and rent golf carts? For what? Why would you charge them to rent? You go golfing every weekend, damn near every day, really, if you think about it. But I don't know, it's just things that, like, so crazy. You know, you talk about all this money you have, yet you don't spend a dime of it, yet you make more money using the American people. When these people start to wake up and realize he's using you to make money, maybe they'll actually get the picture. While President Donald Trump spent weekends at Mar-a-Lago, the U.S. Secret Service was patrolling the waters around the private club so his family could swim. The Daily Beast reported that it was yet another example of the first family costing taxpayers a hefty sum to entertain a greater than normal travel scheduled for the president, his children, and grandchildren. The request for the jet skis came in 2019 when the U.S. Secret Service urged that they needed them for water training to protect the president's family throughout the year. The president and his family spent several weeks throughout the year at Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and the Hamptons in New York. The first family is very active in water sports, the report read. The estimated cost at the time was anticipated to be anywhere ranging from $9,999 to $15,299. However, the final cost came up to be around $25,000. Purchasing the jet skis may have been more than affordable option. However, it was revealed back in May that the Secret Service had charged the taxpayers $179,000 to sign off on a golf cart contracts to Trump's Bedminster Club so the president could play golf. Given so many presidents play golf, there was a question about why the U.S. Secret Service handed money over to Trump to rent the golf carts instead of purchasing them for future use. Juan Andres, who worked for a landscaping company for 10 years in Rancho Mirage, California, was confronted by a woman demanding to see his immigration papers in an incident he captured on his video.
Work, can you move? Can you move around my work area? And can you stay away? You're too close to me right now. And you're not wearing a mask. Can you step away?
Can you show me your papers?
Can you move away?
No, can you show me your papers?
Can you move away?
No, I want to see your papers.
You want to see my papers?
Yes.
Your immigration? Yeah.
Your papers, Mariposa.
All right, so I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to leave it here. After seeing the video, I believe the Karens of the world need to mind their goddamn business. I don't know what part of the bed of righteousness that they wake up on, that they get to question people about what neighborhood they live in, what house, where their immigration papers are. It just made me think of slavery with slave papers. Like, where's your papers? It's getting to be a bit ridiculous. Like, it is getting to be a bit much. There's a thing of making a citizen's arrest when someone is actually doing something, a criminality, but this whole thing where these citizens have taken the power and justice in their own hands because they feel like, it's their country and they have the God-given right to protect it by any means, is a bit ridiculous. That people can't do their jobs without somebody harassing them about where their immigration papers are. And as a matter of fact, where's her immigration papers? Karen, because Karen is probably an immigrant as well. I'm sure your grandparents were not from here. They're probably from Germany or somewhere else. And, all of a sudden now you feel like, oh, well, you've made it, so you're here. And I think it's ridiculous. I think people should learn to mind their goddamn business. Worry about your own self and your own immigration statuses and whatever's going on in your own yard, and worry about your own property. And stop worrying so much about what other people are doing. And if you don't want to wear a damn mask, like some of the Karens and Kens of the world, don't wear one. That's fine. That's fine. Just don't be around me. You don't have to wear one, fine. You don't have to wear one at all. But if the store policy says you have to wear one in order to enter, don't get mad that you cannot enter the store with no mask. I just don't understand these Karens and Kens of the world. Like, you don't own it. It does not belong to you. There were people, newsflash, there were people here when any of the explorers got here. Okay, because Columbus wasn't the only one. The one before him, there were people here. So it behooves me, it just boggles my mind how people think that, that's like somebody living in a house, and you walk in the house like, oh, this house is nice. This is my house. And the person's sitting on the couch like, excuse me? I live here, and you just totally ignore them. You remove their clothes and some of their furnishing and pictures, and you just start hanging up shit and putting clothes in cabinets and drawers and food in the refrigerator, and just act like it's yours. And that's literally what this country did, like what the people did to the people who were already here in this country. And and then now they act like they're so prideful and, oh, this is ours, it's my America. No, it's not. It's not your America. It just belongs to everybody else just as much as it belongs to you. So, I just find it to be a bit ridiculous. when people feel some type of way when this particular person loses her job and all that kind of stuff, it's because it needs to happen. You won't be able to, and I think this needs to even go further, like when people call the police and make false reports, they need to start getting charged. This is nothing to take lightly. You endanger people, you endanger their lives when you do things like this, you endanger their jobs when you do things like this. He's a landscaper, he's been doing it for 10 years. You mean to tell me in all of the 10 years, if you've been in the neighborhood, you may have seen him around, so all of a sudden you felt the need to question? Again, what comes from the top, people relish in it. So if bigotry and hate comes from the top, those that relish in it will act upon it because they feel like they're given permission. And we need to stop giving these people permission and call a thing a thing. If you're a bigot, you're a bigot. If you're a racist, you're a racist. I mean, it's pretty much one and the same, pretty much, but with some differences, of course. But, we just need to start calling a thing a thing. And that's just it. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.